Hey, what's up, everybody? So today is Monday. We got some green on the board. We got some interesting price action. We're gonna look at XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Let's start with Ethereum. So if we look on the smaller time frames, right? Actually, real quick on the daily, we are looking at this three-wave shape, right? So you have three waves down, all right? You have three waves up, and then you have five waves back down. So this is an a B, and a C, right? And then from there, you want an impulse off the low. And it's exactly what we got. We got an impulse off the low. So now we can look at this. Well, potentially it's a 1-2-1-2, right? And this looks like a wave 3. It appears that we're flagging out for a wave 4, and we're about to get a wave 5. Once we get that wave 5, it'll be more than likely we'll be in the retrace levels, right? So if we take a Fibonacci level and put it down here, you could see we're right between the 382 and the 50%. So if we got that fifth wave, right, that would most likely get us, well, let's use another retrace to see. If we take a trend-based fib extension from the bottom of the wave all the way to the top of the wave and then back down to the bottom of the wave, a standard level would be a 1-to-1 extension. And you can see actually the 1-to-1 extension is above the 618, the 702, and the 786, which would be right about there, right? And then I'm going to put another line right at the 702, and then, yeah, right there. So then we'll get rid of this, and then we can get rid of that. There we go. So basically, we should expect potentially a wave to the upside. Now, again, this is not financial advice. I could be totally wrong. This is just my interpretation of the wave. It doesn't mean that's exactly what's going to happen, right? Because let's talk ideas, right? That's the first idea. What would be the second idea? Well, the second idea would be the same thing. It'd be the same thing we would get up here, but it would be a bigger correction to the downside, right? What about the third idea? What would be the third idea? It'd be the same idea, but it would be even a bigger correction. But at the end of the day, it's really just one idea, and that idea is getting back up to here. So however this wants to correct, you know, that's the way it is. I don't see, however, you know, this, for example, being a 1 and a 2, and we're just gonna keep going down. Obviously, that could be a real life situation, but the reason I don't like it too much is because you have this three-wave move here, right? You have 3 up, and this could be 5 down, but it's not proportional with this, right? So if we were gonna crash, what I would want to see is something like this, where we would come back down and then come back up, right? And then what that would do is that would give us a three-wave shape, right? And then if we got that shape, it would be very interesting. It would be a little bit nerve-wracking because this could then be a 1 and then a 2, right? Because you have that A, B, C to get that third wave down. Now, I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think that is the case at all. The reason why is because when you look left, when you zoom out even further, all the way back to 2021, right, you can see we had this nice, or I'm sorry, 2020, we had this nice double bottom, right, this W-shaped formation, right, which led into a bull run. And then if you look at this bull run, or if you look at the structure after it, you can see we created a base. We're creating structure. We're creating a platform, layers of support on top of the previous cycle, right? So that's a good thing. More importantly, though, the wave structure, what is it telling us? Well, you have a big move up, That's the end of the wave, and then you have 3 waves down, you have 3 waves up, and look at this, you have 3 waves back down. That is a perfect textbook running flat. It's a WXY, right? It's a flat because the X wave went up more than 90%, I believe, and it's a running flat because we didn't. If it was a regular flat, we would come all the way back down to here, right? Like that. And that would be more like an A, B, or A, B, and then like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for C. But again, I just don't see that. If it was an expanded flat, well, then we would have to break the low. But anyways, it's a regular flat, it appears. And then also you have rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, even if it wants to go sideways for a little bit before you get that big breakout. That's usually how it goes, you know, like a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, breakout. So same kind of situation. But let's look at the smaller time frames. But the most important wave is this wave right here, right? That's the most important wave, and that wave is 3. Okay, so that gives us our bias, which is to the upside. Right now, we didn't really get away from the scene of the crime. We have a big bloody massacre right here, and then we immediately shot up, right? Versus having a big bloody massacre and then getting away from the scene of the crime, creating distance, creating a base, creating a bottom at the floor, and then going up. That resets the momentum a lot better. The problem is you have to wait for it, right? So because we didn't have all that consolidation down here, then we're going to make up for it at some point, either up here, you know, a big flag up here, or even starting now, right? So, but yeah, if we look at the small time frames, and first of all, let me go back to the daily. Let me turn on some indicators real quick. Let's look at the sequential. Yeah, we had a daily 9. We didn't have anything on the low. The bull market support band, we're back above the bull market support band. So this is very bullish here. Now, I was going to put a members video out last weekend. My grandmother passed away, and couldn't get to it. So this weekend we were doing her arrangements and stuff like that because, you know, all my family works. That's usually when we can do things on the weekend. So this week for sure, look out for it. It's coming for sure. And then I'm gonna probably do another one the following week, so back to back, just because I owe you guys one. So all right. And it's actually better that we waited because you know because now the wave structure is even more clear, so it's gonna make the video a lot better. But let's look at the small time frames. Now the small time frames are very, very interesting. Most people look at this and they don't know what to think. They don't know how to interpret that, right? A lot of people would interpret that bearish, right? You make a big move up, and then you have a shoulder, and then you have like a head, and then you have another shoulder. It looks bearish. It's going to crash. And that could very well be the case, right? That could very well be the case. But I don't believe that. The reason why is because if you look closely at what is happening here, you can identify waves, right? And the waves we have is, it looks like we have a 3-wave move down, right? That's a flat right there. And then we have a 3-wave move up. Look at that. So we have a W, and then we have an X. And look at this. We have another 3-wave move, but this one is back down, right? And that is exactly how a correction occurs. You get 3 down, 3 up, 3 back down, and then you continue. Now, it doesn't have to have this shape. It could look like this, right? Because most people, you know, they think of an ABC, they think of this, right? They think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. And that's like the textbook way to look at it. But how can you get this three-way move to look like this? Well, by the way it's shaped, right? So 3 down, 3 up, 3 back down, right? So this move right here could be finished, W, X, and Y, right? Actually, I'll just put it there. So, all right, so if that's the case, if it's WXY, what else is giving us and you can say, well, who cares about Ethereum, you know, but we need Ethereum to do well. We are cheering for it because the better Ethereum does, the more confidence it gives the entire altcoin market, thus meaning Theta, XRP, everything else, it's going to do a lot better. And then everything tied to Ethereum, like, you know, Matic, stuff like that. So that would be what? That WXY, which is in the totally the wrong degree. It should be like, I think something like that. So so this idea, right, would be what? A fourth wave, right? Or you know, this would be a 1 2 1 2 3, right? And then we're flagging out for a 4, and then we should come up here and get our wave 5. So that's my primary idea. That's what I think is going to happen. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I could be wrong. It could totally not work out. So just so you understand. So what would be the alternative? Well, it's very hard to know because when you're in a situation where you have point A, right, the top, you have point B, which is the bottom, and then you have point C, right? You're right in the middle of point A and point B, okay? So it's anybody's guess on how it plays. But that's why we use, you know, statistical probabilities to give us that edge. For example, you could say, well, it's anybody's guess up or down. Why do I think up? Well, because this three-wave move corrected down. We have an impulse up, so the direction, right? We have a higher low, so we have, you know, we have a low, right? We have a wave, we have a correction, and we have a higher low. So the directional bias is up, right? So, but yeah, anyways, that's it for Ethereum, really. I hope you guys went long. And remember, we talked about this too in the previous video. This is exactly what we talked about. You can go ahead and check it out. So yeah, it's looking really, really, really good right now. So what about even smaller time frames? Like, let's look even smaller. What the hell's going on here? Well, this is where it gets even more complicated. The more you zoom in, I'm not sure.